Hello everyone. Well, my name is and today I will be teaching you how to deal with part 1 of the Ielts writing exam. Now, let's begin. So, first of all, you need to bear in mind that in order to deal with this task, you have to spend for about 20 minutes, since the whole part lasts 1 hour and you have to write 2 essays. The first one is a report, and the second one is the essay. So today we'll be dealing with the report. So as I said, you have to spend 20 minutes on the task and you have to produce a text about the length of 150 words. That's quite easy. So the first thing that you have to do is read the task and understand what you're supposed to write. So you need to be familiar with types of charts that you might be presented with. So you might have to deal with a bar graph, a line graph, pie chart, a table with numerical data, or even maps, or maybe a procedure shown in various stages. Then, after you have understood what you are supposed to write, you have to keep in mind that, as in all types of essays, your piece of writing should follow a logical plan. So, first of all, you have to include an introduction, then the main body where you analyze the data, and then the conclusion, which is quite short because you don't have time. So, there are certain do's and don'ts that you have to follow while dealing with this kind of task. Now, since you have to write a report, you have to remember that you don't need to include all the information that is given to you. You should be able to distinguish which information is more important than other, make comparisons when necessary. So you have to summarize the information, not provide everything. You have to avoid making repetitions. You shouldn't mention the same thing again and again. And definitely you have to describe trends, whether, for example, sales went upwards or downwards, or remained steady, or they fluctuated, based on every task that you are presented with. While you write your essay, you have to bear in mind that you have to follow the specific structure, as we said, having introduction, main body, and conclusion. You have to pay attention to your grammar. So, for example, if you choose to describe the table or the graph using present tenses, so if you say, for example, that the graph shows that in 1991 there was an upward trend in the amount of people who decided to exercise, you have to keep using present simple throughout your essay. If you choose to describe the specific report using past tenses, to describe the specific chart using past tenses, you have to be consistent. So the table gave results about, you have to continue using past simple. You cannot change between tenses. Then you have to be familiar with specific vocabulary in order to be able to describe the trends. So you cannot write a whole essay saying that numbers increased all the time, okay, or there was an increase in 2000 and then again an increase in 2010. You have to vary the words that you use. So you must be familiar with a lot of synonyms. And of course, you must bear in mind that you have to fulfill the requirements of the task, which is, if they ask you to make comparisons, you should be able to compare. If they ask you just to describe giving the main points, only the main points, you have to give the main points. So you have to cover everything on the rubric. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the vocabulary that we use when we have to write a report. So since the report mainly has to cover types of change, you could say, for example, that numbers rose or increased, percentages climbed. If there is a downward trend, you could say that the numbers fell, decreased, declined, slumped, went down. there is a big list that you can make. Sometimes changes do not happen. So you could use this group of words. Okay, the numbers remain stable, leveled out, maintain the same level. There was no change. Or there could be fluctuation. So you could say that they fluctuated. Now, in order to make your piece of writing even more interesting, what you have to do is, if you choose to use verbs, you could actually use adverbs in order to describe the trend's rhythm. So, for example, you could say that numbers increased dramatically, sharply, enormously, considerably, or significantly. If you choose to use the noun, there was a rise, you could say that there was a rapid rise or growth. There was a swift growth. There was a quick growth or a sudden growth. Could be gradual or even slow. Okay, and if you have to use numbers, percentages, you could say that, for example, the percentage was just under 10%. It was roughly 20%. It was nearly 20%. It was around 50%. Now, you might also be asked, for example, to compare data between sexes, male and female, users of the internet, for example. So you have to be familiar with ways of comparing. You could say, for example, that more men than women choose to surf the net on a daily basis. Half as many men as women choose to surf the internet after 6 p.m. 4 times as many men as women. Okay. If you have to describe percentages, you could also say that the percentage doubled in a period of a year, or it quadrupled, it tripled. Okay, so you have to be familiar with the vocabulary. Now, sometimes you might also be asked to talk about specific periods of time. So you have to be acquainted with the vocabulary that we use in order to describe, for example, decades, or it could be a century, could be a term, not about 6 months, 4 months period. Okay, so you also have to know the vocabulary for that. What you can do when it comes to Ielts Part 1 vocabulary is, okay, either get into word reference and try to find synonyms for increase, decrease, okay, or you could search for sites providing free material for Ielts exam. But no matter what you do, in order to perfect your writing skills, you have to be consistent at writing. So you have to write every week. At the beginning, probably you will not be scoring as high as you would wish for. For example, if your university asks you for a score of 8 and you are a B2 level student, this will definitely demand some time and some effort, of course. So don't get disheartened. What you have to do is keep trying, practice a lot, and of course, whenever your teacher or the tutor that is actually preparing you for the exam gives you back an essay, I would highly recommend that you go back to the specific essay that has been corrected and maybe copy it in a notebook, paying special attention to your mistakes so that you will avoid making the same mistakes again. So that's all for now. I hope that it has helped you. Till next time, take care. Bye.